Welcome back to the Saints Insider Podcast. I am Luke Johnson, filling in as host today. I'm joined by Matthew Paris and Jeff Duncan. We are not going to talk about quarterbacks. We are not going to talk about much about last week's game. We're going to talk about kickers, guys, because that is the topic du jour on the Saints beat. It's going to be fun chatting about, well, maybe not fun. We're going to be chatting about what happened with Blake Grupe, chatting about who maybe fills in Blake Grupe spots, why they worked out a certain person who is accused of some pretty nasty stuff, former Saints signing with a contender, current Saints future up in the air, and a little bit of Thanksgiving talk because it is the day before Thanksgiving, one of my favorite times of the year. Fellas, how we doing today?
I love, you almost made me think of Allen Iverson, like we're going to be talking about kickers. That's what it sounds
We're
like.
sitting here. I'm supposed to be the franchise host, and we're in here talking about kickers.
Well, not quarterbacks.
Not quarterbacks.
Kickers.
Talking about
That's where we're at.
kickers.
That's what happens when you go 2-9 and lose to your arch rival.
Well, Saints might be 2-9, but we're still bringing in money. Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. From small business to big business, home loans to Bank Anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. New deposit customers can reach out today to learn more about incredible rate specials. Learn more at bankplus.net, member FDIC, equal housing lender. It is Wednesday, November 26th. We are actually going to be recording a couple podcasts early this week because we have Thanksgiving stuff to do as well. Matt's parents are in town, or Matt's family's in town from the Chicago area, so he's going to be putting on his chef hat and making some happy people.
You cooking?
I'll try. I mean, it's complicated with practice. Basically, my mom is doing everything, and I'll help where I can.
Just like old times. And Dunk is going to a charitable dinner. Charitable for Dunk.
Correct, yeah. Orphan's dinner without a pie.
And without the orphans. It's just you guys.
I'm an orphan. I count. Yeah. If anybody has a pie they want to donate and get it over here to the studio, I need one.
They would probably like to do that to your face, though.
Yeah, I'm sure the Saints fan base can come up with a pie for you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just might not want to eat it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to this news of the day. Look, obviously the Saints lost their 9th game in 11 tries last week, and one of the huge storylines coming out of that was the continued struggles of Blake Grupe. He missed 2 field goals in this game, one from 38 yards, one from 47 yards, both wide right of the uprights. And that was misses number 7 and 8 of the year, and the Saints' patience just kind of finally wore thin with Blake.
Yeah, I mean, that was all year as he was struggling. You know, the misses were bad, but it wasn't it didn't necessarily cost them the game. And the longer they stayed patient, you just were kind of worried in the background, like eventually it was going to catch up to him. And this was the first game I thought that really swung based off his misses, just because if he had made both of them, they would have been able to go into halftime tied. The miss at the end of the half allowed Atlanta to tack on another field goal, like just momentum changing plays. And as much as they tried to show patience in him, tried to get his confidence up, because I think that was maybe one of the issues here is just kind of the toll of missing over and over. And it was time to move on.
Well, it's not just it wasn't just the fact that they've missed out on the points. It also changes the way they call the game.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. I mean, they were going for it on 4th and goal because they were having to chase points. They were at various times this year passing up field goals that we've seen teams try over and over again with these kickers that
they used to try with him.
Right. These kickers have suddenly extended their range out past 60 yards pretty regularly for some of these kickers across the NFL, and the Saints are passing up 57, 58-yard field goals to punt, to go forward on 4th down. So we've seen it impact what they do more than just beyond this game.
And he had kind of recovered. He had 3 games in a row where I don't think he had a miss.
He'd made 7 of his last 8, but like a lot of those, you go back and look at them, a lot of them were inside 40 yards and really the stuff you expect him to make.
But they definitely did not want to have to move on. They wanted to be able to stick with him. That's the MO of this organization, for better or worse. And I think they felt like they had gotten over the hump with him. And then those were very makeable field goals too. It wasn't like he was missing, like you said, from long range. It's a bottom line businessman, and as much as they wanted to be loyal to him, and he's a team captain, he's a guy that's very popular in the locker room. He'd done a lot of stuff for the organization and the community. They value all that stuff. They had to move on. He left them with no other option.
No other option. It is a shame. I mean, I think all of us have enjoyed talking to Blake Grupe over the last couple of years, and we've seen what he looks like when he's right. I mean, we've said it a billion times in this podcast. He's damn near perfect in training camp. Everything right down the pipe, and we've seen it time and time again in the NFL too. It's like when a kicker loses it really starts to go. We even saw it with Will Lutz his last year here.
Yep,
it's part of why they made the change. Will had a really down year coming off of injury, and they felt like they needed to make a change. And I think you can see with people like Will Lutz, with a lot of other kickers across the NFL, you get that change of scenery, and something could pop right back up. It wouldn't surprise me to see Blake still have a long career.
I think he could follow a very similar path to the guy they signed, Cade York, who was lights out at LSU, maybe the best kicker LSU's ever had, and was strong for a while in the NFL, and then he kind of had a phase where he lost it. I mean, he could come right in here and be good for 2 years. It's such a volatile, kind of ephemeral, skill that can come and go. So I have no doubt he's going to get at least another shot with somebody.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was this season with somebody. I mean,
right.
Teams are constantly making kicking changes left and right here, and there's still a couple situations around the league that look like the Packers, for instance. I don't think their kicking situation, even though they have 2 kickers, is far from settled. Like, I think he's going to get another shot, and he's one of the better names available because, as we saw through this process, the names available right now are not the strongest on the market, which explains maybe why they brought in a certain someone.
All right, we'll get to that in a second. First of all, let's talk about the guy they did bring in.
Oh. I meant Cade York. I'm the podcast professional.
We'll get to the other guy. I have some feelings about that. Okay, so the Saints did sign a kicker when they made the move to waive Blake Grupe. It's Cade York. As Jeff mentioned, he was a great kicker in college. I believe he was a 3rd-round pick of the Cleveland Browns coming out. Hasn't been able to carry that success over into the NFL. We've seen him bounce around team to team a little bit. Matt, do you know how many teams he's been on?
Including like where he hasn't even kicked, but just been on. I believe it's the Browns, the 49ers, Giants, Titans, Bengals, Commanders, and the Browns again. Not in that order, but those are, I think, all those teams. How many ever I just listed?
Yeah. So somebody who's been around the league.
Yeah.
And somebody obviously with a lot of talent, but like has not been able to put it together in the NFL. And not necessarily is going to be the Saints kicker this week. I think maybe that's the assumption. You go out and you sign a guy, but now they do have 2 kickers on their practice squad, including one who's been on the practice squad since last spring. So let's take a look at this. We've got for the options at kicker for the Saints, Cade York, long history in the NFL, not a long history of success. Charlie Smith, completely untested, had never kicked a football before like January of 2024. Yeah. But we've seen Charlie for 2 years now. We've seen the potential with Charlie Smith. I think he's made a couple that there were no doubt in my mind would have been good from 70 yards. But we also saw him in training camp this year really, really, really struggle. Even with like extra point length field goals. So is your gut telling you Cade York for this week?
Yeah, I think so. If they wanted to turn to Charlie Smith, they would have just done so already. They wouldn't have had to bring in other guys. I had someone tell me the other day that the Saints were kind of looking for a more experienced option. That's still Cade York, even though he's 24. I think they're going to give him a go. Now, if York struggles, maybe they turn to Smith later in the season. But one of the reasons they didn't sign him to the active roster and just to the practice squad is because you get 3 elevations. We've seen this around the league. San Francisco just did it with Matt Gay for Monday Night Football. He's on their practice squad, but is their starting kicker. It just allows them to manipulate the roster because, they signed Evan Hall to the to the active roster this week. He's a running back. Alvin Kamara is dealing with the knee injury. Like, I just think this time of year you've got to get a little bit tricky with the number of roster positions. So I think it's going to be York, even though he's on the practice squad. And I just don't think they trust Charlie Smith right now.
I agree, yeah. I don't think they would have gone out and had these tryouts for any. And look, the guy's never kicked in the NFL. You spoke to his inexperience, even though he's got a big leg. We've also seen him be very inconsistent. And I think right now that's the last thing this team needs, you know?
Great point.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you could also make an argument, though, that
Cade York is
nothing
also
to lose.
they're 2-9.
What difference does it make?
See what he's got, because like I think if you're just going into next year again being like, well, we have this guy who's really talented, we have no idea what it's like between the lines on Sunday. It's like, well, you had an opportunity.
Yeah, I wonder, are kickers, you know, that's a good point. Like sometimes quarterbacks are, you know, better in games than they are in practice. That might be a good question for Galliano. Like, is there evidence that like some guys are gamers as kickers as opposed to?
Well, I can think of the opposite. Grupe was amazing in practice.
But like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I don't know enough about that, but like, I'm sure they've got a ton of, you know, of like tape on him in practice all year.
Right.
You know, so
I would say the only thing different about what Luke brought up is that he's not really costing the Saints anything by being here because being from Ireland, they get Charlie Smith is from Ireland. They get a special roster exemption spot to develop him and stuff. So I don't know when that expires, but does it expire after this season?
I think it's 2 years.
Okay. So, I mean, in theory, you could let him compete next training camp, but yes, I personally, I would love to see Charlie Smith kick in the game. I've been kind of wanting that for a while, but I just don't necessarily think it's one of those. We have to see what we have in him versus, Tyler Shuck or even someone like Torricelli Simpkins.
Yeah, I just think that if you're going to do it, now's the time to do it.
Yeah,
you know, that's my whole thing, and like I understand, like we haven't seen him kick since training camp. We have no idea what it's looked like. So, you know, it's look, kickers are really important, and especially if you're a really good team. It can be the difference between you winning and losing, the difference between seeding and all that stuff. For this team, obviously, like they want better kicking play. That's why they just cut bait with Blake Grupe. But you are 2-9, and this is an opportunity for you to try some funky stuff. Try the guy who's never kicked in a game. You know, I think that's okay.
I heard he made a 68-yarder in practice the other day, so it'd be kind of fun.
I think it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome to see Charlie Smith try to line up for like a 70-yard field goal.
Right.
But, you know, we may not see it.
Maybe they can elevate them both. York from inside 50, Charlie Smith from outside it.
Special weapon Charlie Smith.
They did that. I mean, the Saints did carry two kickers for a while. So it wouldn't be unusual for them to have two on the roster.
Did they ask you to do the commercial too?
Yeah, but they just gave me one line.
Bet like a Caesar. Like, we're going to sit here and we're going to tell them how Caesar's Sportsbook is just so easy to use that you can watch and bet thousands of sports events, even some NFL games.
They'll probably show us betting on our favourite players and teams at all the Vegas hotspots too.
Like, we have time for that montage.
I told him I couldn't do it.
They couldn't afford me.
Nice bike.
Thanks. Can I get it back before Saturday?
That might be tough.
Whoa. Is it just you?
For now, let's take a look.
Hi, strawberry mango. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Thank you. I'll take another one.
Okay, let's talk about the guy they didn't sign. Thank you. Saints brought in Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker, for a long time, was the best kicker in the NFL, full stop. There was no doubt about it. One of the most accurate kickers in the NFL, one of the guys you can count on to make the long field goals. And then 16 people come out and accuse him of sexual misconduct. and they go through the investigation. Justin Tucker's play falls off, and then he gets released by the Ravens, suspended for 10 games. Fresh off the suspension, Saints were the first team to work him out. Before we get into this discussion, I just want to say, like, what the hell are the Saints thinking here? We just talked about it. 2-9. A 2-9 team has absolutely no friggin' business bringing in a guy with Justin Tucker's track record, off the field track record, right? What are you doing? This is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I was so happy they didn't sign him, because like you're just inviting yourself to be even more of a punching bag. You're opening up all these questions about Gail Benson and the team being just so comfortable with this type of behavior. They went after Deshaun Watson. You know, they were connected to Kareem Hunt multiple times. Just stop. Don't even consider something like this. And yet they were going down the road. And I really am curious if the line of questioning that Kellen Moore got, and in my opinion, poorly handled,
Yeah, it definitely did.
had any impact on their decision making. And if that's the case, like, you know, you should have thought about that beforehand. Like, they were the laughing stock of the league for like a full 24 hours in the news cycle, because they made a decision to try out a guy they had no business trying out. And there's a lot of stuff swirling in my head about this, but that's kind of where I landed. I'm curious where y'all landed.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that I think they were woefully underprepared for kind of the response to this. I think there's
which is hilarious.
I think there's a certain arrogance that comes with that I just don't think that the Saints have earned anymore. And I think it's a lot different than the Deshaun Watson situation, in that at least when Deshaun Watson was in the running to be traded here, the perception of him, even with all the allegations, is that he's still an elite quarterback. Like, those changed franchises. Justin Tucker was not that. In 2024, he was coming off the worst year of his career, went 22 of 30 from field goal range. The allegations came out after that season. So maybe he knew that, but I don't even think the Banner got wind of it until like a few weeks after the season. So I don't know if his struggles were related because he was worried about, the story coming out or anything. But I just think it's like, why even take the flyer on someone like that, someone who's been accused of some horrible things? And Kellen Moore's answer about that was just really wild. He was a leader in Baltimore. He went through inexperience, and we have to find out what it was. Like, just the messaging was awful.
It's tone deaf.
Yes, exactly. Tone deaf. And like, I think that's kind of what is bugging the Saints right now. We talked about it in the Gail Benson episode, is sometimes they are really tone deaf, and it's just not, it's not what you want from a franchise, but it's kind of how they are sometimes.
And even if Justin Tucker was still at the peak of his powers,
Right. No, you shouldn't.
Even if he was, and if you're talking about this from a football standpoint, and you're just going to completely gloss over the completely relevant information there, like, what difference is an all-pro kicker going to make on this team at this stage of the season?
Right. And the only thing I could think of, and this is not, we know in this day and age with the 24/7 coverage that the NFL gets, the only thing I could think of is they thought maybe they could work him out without anybody finding out.
Which, if that was the case, like,
I don't think that even they would do that. That's the only thing I could think of. But then why would you even bring him in anyway? So that's the only thing I could think of. Otherwise, it makes absolutely zero sense for them to take a PR hit for something where they're already, the fan discontent, rightfully so, is as high as it's ever been. You're 2-9, like you said. They're not. The kicker's not going to make that big a difference. The only thing I can think of is it speaks to just maybe how barren it is to find a good kicker, and they're just desperate. But it's still not worth it. And I think the performance of Kellen Moore at that press conference and the heat he was taking, I think it definitely influenced him. I don't think there's any doubt about it, but they should have thought of that before they ever even brought him in for a tryout. The only other possibility, and I have no idea, I'm just speculating here, is maybe they were doing his agent a favor for something down the road.
That's got to be a pretty big favor.
I know. I agree. But that's the only thing, that does happen.
Yeah.
You get him out there, you get him in the mix, you're doing it, but they must have had to owe somebody to do that. That's the only thing I can think of. And thankfully, they came to their senses and signed Cade York, because that would have been look, and Justin Tucker, let's be clear. He was on a Hall of Fame track.
Yes.
As a kicker, that does not happen very often. He was the best kicker maybe of all time. So his reputation, and he was a big guy in the community before all that. He was a big time guy and the fact that Baltimore moved on from him, now I know they had to because they probably knew he was going to get suspended, but still, that's a huge red flag. All the goodwill he'd earned in Baltimore wasn't good enough. Why would you bring him in here?
Right.
There's none of that.
And with Tucker, he denied the allegations. He wasn't sued, I believe, from them. There's been no lawsuit. He served a suspension. But even with all that, you've got to consider, 16 women is a really overwhelming number. It's not just a he said, she said. It's a he said, she said, 100%. Just down the line, at least two spas in Baltimore had banned him. And so it's just, you've got to really be confident in who you're bringing in. And it's really perplexing to me.
Yeah. Last word I have on this is I don't think we need to do any praise the woman-owned leadership that's makes a difference in their decision making here, because this is just a pattern by this organization, which is just frankly gross to me. Moving on, we're going to stop talking about kickers, stop talking about stuff that pisses me off. Look, the Saints finally parted ways with Brandin Cooks after another kind of ridiculous situation last week with which they found themselves in the news for. They're trying to manipulate his contract. The NFL said, no, you can't do that. Basically, the sticking point was the NFL had decided that the Saints were trying to put a poison pill in the contract so another team could not claim Brandin Cooks off waivers, because after the trade deadline, veterans must go through the waiver process differently than they would before the trade deadline. It all got sorted out. Brandin Cooks clears waivers, signs with the Buffalo Bills. What do you guys make of that? Anything at all? It was fun. I did see somebody say Josh Allen has another weapon, and I was just like,
Does he?
I got to give it to Brandin Cooks, man. He's played with Tom Brady,
Drew
Brees. Was he?
I think it was with Goff.
Goff. Well, still Goff is probably a top 10 quarterback. And now
Dak
Prescott, Josh Allen,
Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler, Davis Mills. That hasn't all been winners, but he's had a pretty good slate of quarterbacks. So props to him for finding a quarterback who could maybe get him the rock, because Buffalo, they did need a receiver. And even though Brandin Cooks hasn't had a tremendous year the last few years, it still might be better than what Keon Coleman, who isn't even playing right now, could give them.
Maybe he's going to relive that skinny post in the Buffalo end zone. What do you think, Duncan?
Look, man, I don't know how you all feel, but I don't think Brandin Cooks has much left. I don't know he's going to make any difference there at all. The term washed comes to mind when I think of him at this point. So, but I do think that's another example of the Saints. I think a lot of that had to do with their cap situation and them trying to manipulate around. I know they're in better shape now, but they end up doing a lot of these kind of gymnastics with these contracts a lot of times, and they got outed because I think people in the NFL, you know what I mean, then saw this as an end around they were trying to pull, and it's another black eye that they didn't need right now, I think, PR wise. And as far as Cooks is concerned, obviously he apparently came to the team, asked for his release, which, I think the Saints at this point were willing to honor that. But I worry a little bit about, and we haven't talked about this, we talked about it on our call earlier this week, but he did bring some leadership to the locker room that I think even Tyler Shuck has talked about. I wonder where they're finding that here down the stretch, because so many key offensive players now either been hurt or, moved on. It's just a young group. And I wonder if there is an opportunity for some of these young guys like, Fuaga, Banks, Shuck even, can they step into that void? Because there is an opportunity there. Somebody's got to lead this offense because it's struggling right now. And guys like Cooks, I think, would have been a good voice to have down this stretch.
I mean, just think of the 8 captains, the 8 players the Saints named captains this year. Brandin Cooks released. Blake Grupe released. Alvin Kamara hurt, unproductive this year generally. Eric McCoy hurt. Zach Wood, very nice person, but a long snapper. And then the 3 defensive captains have performed pretty well. Demario Davis, Justin Reed, Cam Jordan. I think the defense has pretty good leadership, and I think you're actually kind of seeing that,
manifest.
Manifest, the benefits of that happening as the defense is starting to improve right now. And you just can't say the same about the offense or special teams in this case.
Yeah, and I've heard Shuck say that Olave is trying. He's trying to step into a bigger leadership, but it's just not the way he's wired. He's more of a lead by example type. That's the way Kamara was. They're just not going to be those kind of DeMario type of emotional presence. That's just not how they're wired. They're really lacking that on that side of the ball. And I do think Banks and Fuaga have that in them. They're not necessarily vocal, demonstrative type leaders, but you can see they have a presence about them. Maybe.
And I think in this league, you don't really need a lot of guys who are gonna necessarily get in your face, right, and be the rah vocal leadership guys. But I do think that you do need to have people who are going to keep you accountable.
Yeah,
and that's the main thing. And I'm not sure that they do have a bunch of that on the offensive side of the ball. McCoy definitely is that guy to me, but he's been hurt the last couple of years, and I think Cooks was that guy. Cooks was just a solid mentorship presence there. That was the biggest thing he brought to this team.
And I would say another guy that is underrated in that department, exactly what you're talking about, is Taysom Hill behind the scenes, but his play has fallen off so much. And one thing I remember in the old days is Rick Venturi. I'm pulling out that. Rick Venturi always told me, he said, your leaders have to be your best players. It can't be, because I remember it was in relation to the Saints brought in Brian Cox. Remember Brian Cox, the linebacker?
Yep.
And he was done. It's kind of like Brandin Cooks. When you're done and you're kind of washed, you can't lead. I mean, you can kind of help guys learn how to be pros, but you can't lead in the heat of battle. And I think at this point, as much as we've all liked watching Taysom Hill, it's pretty obvious he's not the same impactful guy that he was. So I don't think they have their best players aren't those guys anymore, except for McCoy, who's hurt. And I don't know if Olave, if that's going to be the way he's wired.
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of guys in this generation of the NFL are if you were to do a straw poll in the locker room, you'd probably get 90% of the players saying I lead by example.
Yeah. I think Shuck's got it in him.
I think he does too.
He's definitely got strong leadership, and he's trying, but he's also understands. He even said it last week. He's humble enough to realize this is DeMario, Cam's team. He's not there yet. He'll be that guy probably down the road, but somebody's got to step in there, and I don't know if it's going to happen this year just because of the attrition we've seen.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of one of these guys, Alvin Kamara exited, I think, the 4th play of the game last week for the Saints. Injured his knee, kind of went down awkwardly when his former teammate Caden Ellis tackled him near the sideline. And we're looking at likely absence for Alvin Kamara. We're taping this on Wednesday before they go to practice. But even Kellen Moore, when he was talking about him, he kind of slipped and said he's going to be out. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. So none of us are expecting Alvin Kamara to play this weekend, and potentially a multi-game absence for him. This is, I think every year of his career he's missed at least 1 or 2 games. But this is. At this stage of this season of his career, he is not having the kind of year that we've grown accustomed to from him in multiple ways. So Matt, you wrote a story this week, just kind of wondering what Alvin Kamara's future is with the team. So let's just kind of what are the basic points we want to hit on here to discuss this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, he has 1 year left on his contract this season. If they want to get rid of him, they can.
1 year meaning he's signed through 2026.
Yeah. So the cap number is $18.2 million, which I think would be addressed no matter if they wanted to keep him or not, because it's a really high number for a 31-year-old running back. He'll be 31 next season. And if they want to get out of it, you know, the Saints love their post-June 1 releases every year. Seems like they take advantage of that spot. I think he's a prime candidate for that because he would clear $8.5 million toward next year's books, and you could split up that 18.2 over the next 2 seasons.
But always a reminder for that. That means they have to carry the full $18 million until June 1st.
That's
so
true.
It's not really like money they could really count on using to build that team's roster.
That's true. It's just, but if you don't use that 8.5, then you can roll it over to the next season, and it kind of lessens the burden of maybe what they want to build in 2027 when hopefully the cap is in a better situation. It's just, this is the kind of situation that the Saints found themselves in, and I don't know. We can debate whether they should have given him an extension or not. I was kind of okay with it at the time. It was a higher number for him, but he had a really good season in 2024. He's an important fixture here. I just think, like, you do see the decline in his play, and part of it, I think, is really just the interior of the offensive line is so bad that he hasn't been able to generate those type of runs that we're used to seeing. And, you know, he's been dealing with this ankle injury as well before this, which I think has hobbled him a little bit. But I think the clear way you see him not having the same type of impact is in the passing game. And that was his bread and butter here for so long. And that, to me, that's not an offensive line issue. That might be a Kellen Moore issue, but I just don't see him having the same type of impact there.
Yeah, I would say there was a play right before he got hurt. If you remember, they did a little dump off to him in the left flat. That was a play he would have made that first guy miss years ago. And that guy just swallowed him up, and Alvin bounced right up. I mean, you could see he was frustrated. Now, some of that could have to do with his ankle. I mean, but that's what starts happening when you're 30 years old. I mean, the wear and tear. I mean, he's been a durable guy. You're right. It's funny. He's missed games almost every year, but he's never missed anything.
Right. It's always
extensive.
like he's always playing like 13, 14 games.
Yeah. But he's been incredibly durable. You know, Breeze on the broadcast even said he's kind of Gumby-like. And this was the one time where, I mean, that was just a really awkward tackle. And it was funny. We were watching him during the game, and it looked like he was telling everybody on the sidelines, "I'm okay. I'm going back in." But obviously, he couldn't go.
Yeah, he came out of the injury tent, put his helmet right back on. I was assuming he was going back into the game.
He was telling everybody.
It looked like it. I mean, just watching it from the press box, which, you know, we're 300 yards away in the press box, but like just watching it live, I was like, God, that looked like it hurt.
Yeah, it could have been a hip drop tackle too. The way he could definitely got it flagged. But I mean, I'm with Matt. It's so weird because on one side of the coin, I do like sometimes that the Saints understand their players like Alvin Kamara, like DeMario, that this is a unique market in a way. I mean, the players here in a lot of ways are treated almost like family members. Some of the fans, you know, you can remember like Jameis was a backup quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater a backup quarterback, and they were like beloved. You know, much more so I think than other markets. So I think the organization recognizes that, and while you're struggling, you do need to kind of recognize, hey, this is one thing that is working for us is we have some popular players. But the other side of the coin is, man, this is a business, and at this stage, most teams, I think, around the league would probably move on in this same situation from Alvin Kamara. But he is a unique guy in the history of this organization, the leading rusher. But at this point, with that contract, the other side of the coin, I would lean toward moving on. I think this offense is in desperate need of some juice, some explosiveness, some playmaking ability in the future, and I don't think Alvin Kamara is that guy. Now, maybe he becomes the backup, you know, in that role, but I would think a lot's going to be dictated on his future here about what they do in the offseason.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I agree. I mean, I can totally see a scenario where he comes back for his last year, but they're like, hey, we're gonna we're going to bring in somebody else to either be the lead or like be like a 50-50 split here, because at that point you're going to be eating the money anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, he's I think pretty clearly not the same player. You always know the drop off is going to come for these players eventually. Some people are able to hold off on it longer than others. Like DeMario, I think is a prime example of this. He's definitely not the same player that he was 6-7 years ago. But he is still a highly productive member of that defense who's probably been their best down-to-down overall defensive player this year, despite the fact that he's not nearly the athlete he was at one point. With Alvin, like, I think so much more needs to be right for him to still impact the game even close to the way he used to. And their offensive line isn't right. Their quarterback is young. There's a lot of different things that are playing factors into this. Where maybe if he did go to some other team, like the Denver Broncos or the Dallas Cowboys, who are getting huge years out of guys like Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders this year. Yeah, like maybe you could see some of that old AK, but like the system in place right now is just not working for Alvin, and it might just be that his time here is done.
I also think he would retire. And I don't know. I know a lot of guys say that in terms of I don't want to play for any other franchise, but he's a very peculiar individual,
He
and
marches to the beat of his own drum for sure.
And I think that if he were to be released, he would just call it a career.
And if it came to that, that would probably be something the organization and him would talk about. And hey, let's just do a retirement announcement. I'm sure those options would be discussed with him, and it would be, that's how it would be framed.
Yeah, unless he wants to keep playing, which I wouldn't blame him. But I mean, I don't know that for sure. That's just the way I would lean.
That's what happened with Morstead. I mean, Morstead, they came to him and said, hey, we're probably, going to go in another direction here, but would you consider retirement? If you're interested in retiring, we'll do a big press conference. And he's like, no, I want to keep playing. So, and he's
5 years later.
5 years later, still playing. So, that's how those conversations sometimes go down.
All right. That's kind of been it for the Saints talk today. We're going to be back out of practice today and tomorrow, which is Thanksgiving. No Darren Rizzi effect this year. Saints will be practicing on the holiday, which is probably for the good after they laid an egg last week against the Atlanta Falcons. Do want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of y'all. Hope you're having a great time with your family wherever you're watching and listening. For me, personally, turkey is obviously the greatest of all time Thanksgiving dish, and I don't want to hear it if you think otherwise. But the best question to ask this year is sides or dessert. I want to hear your number one, Matt.
I'll do sides. My mom makes this stuffing that's a bit unconventional. It's more of a Greek dish, but it's rice, and it's like a sweeter rice. So it has brown sugar, cinnamon, pine nuts, golden raisins, and chicken gizzards.
Ooh,
and
that sounds great.
It's really great. It's very sweet, very delicious.
Called something? Is it
just stuffing.
Just a different kind of stuffing. It sounds amazing.
Yes, it's very good.
You're probably going to get crapped on in the comments for,
I probably am,
for
but
talking about your very Midwest stuffing instead of dressing.
Yeah, hey, man, can we get some of that? Should we request some of that leftovers?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to say that like harkening back to my own Midwest roots, like rhubarb pie is maybe the one thing that, like, if I see it, I have to have some no matter what. Rhubarb does not exist down here, and that's a shame.
I don't think I've had that.
It's like
I'm from the Midwest.
It's like a weed.
It's a pie?
Yeah, you just it's like this big leafy weed that grows everywhere in the Midwest, and you can make like pies and crisps and.
I don't think I've ever heard of a pie like.
Oh man, so good.
Your weed pie.
Speaking of, remember the great.
You ever had pie? Oh, weed.
Remember the great Curb Your Enthusiasm episode when Larry said, "How come grape never made it as a pie?"
I will say pie. Well, good point by Larry.
the
pie,
one fruit that's never been.
Pie is undefeated as a dessert. Pie of any kind, apple pie, chocolate pie, pumpkin pie, pecan pie. Give me all of it. But I will say that I've been living in the South longer than I've lived anywhere else, even though I grew up in Wisconsin. And my mother-in-law, Katie Bray, said, "Thank you so much for making your sweet potato casserole every year. It does have a little marshmallow on top. It is freaking delicious, and I'm looking forward to having some tomorrow.
Dude, that sounds amazing too.
What do you got, Don?
Oh, look, I'm going to just go straight with gravy as a side. I think gravy, just straight gravy in any form.
Straight gravy.
Yeah, that's
Duncan just
Ladles
takes,
in your mouth.
yeah,
turkey
Duncan just
gravy.
takes the boat and tips
yeah,
it
the
up.
turkey gravy, man. Just put it on everything. I put it on, coated on my like green beans. I don't care.
Dip
what.
it in your water.
Yeah, maybe even on my desserts. Gravy. I'm a straight gravy guy.
It's the least surprising thing we've heard today. All right. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you. If you are enjoying our podcast, please like it. Tell your friends about it. Share it. All that good stuff. We appreciate you. I've been Luke Johnson filling in as host today. We've got Matthew Paris, Jeff Duncan, and Molly Ballinger is our producer today. I hope I just said your last name right, even though you told me about it. Okay. Molly, what's your favorite Thanksgiving side?
I would have to go with gravy.
Gravy. We got 2 votes for gravy.
Molly.
Surprising,
Molly's
but
got it.
I don't know if gravy counts as a side. To me, it's more of a condiment.
It's a
but-
side.
Okay. Molly eats gravy with a spoon. That's where we're at on the Saints Insider podcast. We appreciate y'all for listening. Thank you so much. We will be back with another episode later this week, which we're going to record in about 5 minutes. So we'll see y'all later, and thank you very much. Talk to you soon.